All right, well, here we are on vacation with Between the Notes podcast. We are in beautiful Rogers, Arkansas, part of the Ozarks. And this is something that we've been able to do once a year for the past couple of years, get our families together, our children together to have a great time. And over Father's Day weekend, we are here. Yeah, hello.
I tell you what, yesterday we had an incredible time on the party pontoon boats exploring Beaver Lake. And we had the family out there. It was great. I mean, it was just so much fun.
It's my first time driving a boat ever, and let me tell you, I totally get it now.
It's great, right?
It was super fun. It was super fun.
Yeah. I mean, as long as you don't get lost.
Yeah, well, you know, the GPS and Google Maps works even on the lakes in the middle of the lake. It was amazing. It was so much fun. Kids had a great time. Wives had a great time. We were having a great time tonight.
Yeah.
Celebrating Father's Day.
And what a cool place that we're at, right? We got the hot tub. We got the fire pit. We got the grill. It's amazing. The girls have their own little fortress downstairs.
Absolutely.
It's amazing.
Absolutely. We had a nice Greek dinner tonight.
Well, yeah, and I think what's so cool about this is because more often than not, what we unfortunately do is talk on the phone. Or you see each other on the Between the Notes podcast recordings.
Absolutely.
And so being able to get together, like you said, is so great. But I have to say, for as infrequently that we actually do get to see each other, thank goodness for social media. Thank goodness for phones. Thank goodness. You know, we talk all the time about, can you imagine what it would have been like to be an opera singer, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 years ago when all you had was a payphone.
Right.
And, you know, so
I remember Barry Tucker told me that, like, his dad, Richard Tucker, the wonderful, amazing American tenor, there was like once a week he was going to call at this time, and he would go and he would do it.
Yep.
And if you missed talking to Dad during that time, then we'll see you next week. But yeah, I mean, I'm on FaceTime 3, 4, 5 times a day,
right,
with the kids and with Irene and
with friends
absolutely, around the fire pit.
And I think, I mean, you know, one of the things that I think we've certainly figured out over the years is how much we mean to each other and how close we are as friends, and what that can be is, you know, not just for fun and hanging out socially, but also to bounce ideas off of each other, whether that be about teaching or about singing or family, whatever it is, right?
Totally.
So I think that in today's episode, I think we're going to talk a little bit about the importance of adding or making sure that you have friends in the in the team that you're surrounding yourself with, because we've talked a little bit about it before.
Right.
You know, we've got your voice teacher, we've got your, eventually in the career, you have your manager,
coaches,
right? You have your pianist who plays your lessons, which might be different than the coach that you work with,
right?
But people that you trust musically and otherwise. And I think a huge part of that is to make sure that you've got outlets in the friendship zone, you know what
Absolutely.
I mean? Because, oh my gosh, I can't tell you how many times I'm like, okay, this just happened to me, what do you think? You know, and it's just, you know, who you go to is depending on what the situation is. But I tell you what, it's been an absolute honor and blessing and everything else.
Thank you, brother.
To be able to have this guy, to be able to be like, all right, what do you think I should do about this? Or, hey, will you listen to me sing this real quick and tell me if this is horrible or this is all right? You know, whatever.
Totally. Well, and I think a great segue into that. So it doesn't have to be the case, but when Weston and I met and became friends, we were working with the same voice teacher.
Yeah.
Right. So, and he had been studying with Stephen Smith at Juilliard for at least a year before I started working with him. And so I was picking Weston's brain about some of his exercises, some of his like kind of concepts and philosophies about singing. And since then, after that, I went to Bill Schumann and you went to Stephen King.
Yeah.
And, so we've been able to kind of sit there and compare notes and just kind of ask,
combined with all the experiences we've had on stage, right?
Of course.
It's like, I find that if I'm doing this, I don't know, it starts to feel like this, or what do you think about?
Right.
And I think, to your point, it's so important to have those types of conversations, which for whatever reason seems to be, or at least you just don't hear a lot about, like, people talking about it.
Yeah, and this is a great reason why I think you started Under the Hood.
Yeah.
Was because there seems to be this veil of secrecy behind technique and what a certain teacher teaches and all this kind of stuff. And
well, even more than that, if a certain technique didn't work for you and you had to rework that technique and figure out what you're like. I had a great conversation with Christine Gerke on Under the Hood where we talked about, she used to sing Handel and other stuff, and then she stepped away for a second, came back, and was singing all this Wagnerian stuff, and it's like, and Strauss, and so that, you're right, that was why I initially started doing Under the Hood, was to sort of lift that veil and talk about the challenges and pitfalls, but also sort of just, hey, what do you think about getting through the upper passaggio as a female singer with a bigger voice? Or what do you think about doing it as a pants mezzo who, used to be a soprano, but then figured out you were actually a mezzo? So I think all of those things are worth talking about. And if you can find someone that you really trust to talk about it with, all the better.
Yeah, I mean, I think, a lot of you guys are in undergrad or masters or even post school,
right?
You've got your friends and but the ones with really good ears and maybe the ones that are inclined towards teaching somewhere down the road, and someone who, the point is of having a friend is that their interest is just your friendship and your well-being.
There shouldn't be any ego attached.
It's not a teacher who you're paying. It's not a manager who you're paying.
Right.
It's not coaches who you are paying.
Right.
It's someone who just hopefully loves you for you and understands singing and understands, technique and your voice and all that kind of stuff. And that,
I mean, while and what you were saying before, while it might be really helpful if you're coming from the same studio or even the same, lineage of teacher or something like that, it can also be beneficial when you have somebody who you really respect their singing, you feel really close to them, you're already great friends. Yeah, I mean, talk about the differences. Figure out, hey, I noticed that when you do this, we had this whole conversation about support, where I had always been taught down and out, and
I had always been taught up and in, tummy tuck. That's how it goes.
And I mean, those are the two.
Yeah, those
most
are kind of
agreed upon
big
techniques.
Yeah, the two schools of support, as it were.
Sure.
And maybe there's something in the middle that's like a combination of both.
Right.
But it definitely made a difference for me. I mean, I was a trumpet player, as you were.
Yeah. Well, I was a trumpet player for 8 seconds.
Okay. Well, I was a trumpet player. I was a trumpet player for a little bit longer. And a lot of my buddies, like Stephen Costello and some other people, are also trumpet players or brass players. And that is a very different kind of support. But if it's never addressed, you don't quite understand, because as a trumpet player, you absolutely have to go up and in. There is you can't go down and out, or your sound doesn't have a focus of the core and all this kind of stuff. But it's a different concept.
I'm sure reed players are probably a little bit different than a brass player.
I'm sure they are.
Anything that you have to create that sort of resistance to breath, and then creating some type of engagement in the lower torso, it's well, what do you do with that? And so it's important to have those.
Well, that's why I think we both love in our singing and our teaching and working with singers and students and stuff that we're much more, and I don't want to speak for you, but I think, in the airflow department, as opposed to the pressure, or certainly not pressure, but support kind of thing. We've worked with teachers who, and some of them don't even address support. It should just be completely organic and an instinct that you follow. And I think that...
Or they get around that idea by talking about projection.
Right. Sure.
Because you can't, you have to make sure you project your voice or whatever you're doing. But I mean, it's let's say this. There are probably as many different ways to say this as there are many teachers are that there are in the world, right?
No, absolutely.
Oftentimes it helps to just have somebody that you can bounce the ideas off of, what do you think when he said this? What is that? How does that make sense to you? Because to me, I was like, okay, in the moment, and I had no idea what he was talking about.
Well, I mean, another wonderful, kind of piece to the puzzle is that my wife is a singer and a voice teacher. Your wife is a singer.
She studied music, has a bachelor's degree in voice.
Yeah, now working in HR. But so we've got, those ears for, Irini during, when I was singing was my ears in the house.
Yeah.
Because feeling it on stage and feeling like maybe the orchestra is so loud and overpowering, and she would be like, don't worry about it at all. Your voice is cutting, no problem. Just getting out there.
How incredibly helpful is that?
Gosh.
Obviously, if your spouse has any inkling about what it is to make a good sound, that's incredibly important. And still to this day, I have... If I can get her to. Can you just sit there for 10 minutes and listen to this real quick?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, that is, I think, I've also often addressed this as kind of like the missing link, and it's also a source, can be a source of real insecurity for singers, is that the fact that we don't hear our voice the way everybody else does.
Oh, right, sure.
And then certainly, one step or two steps further than that, we are not able to simultaneously be on stage and in the house listening. So we just have to trust that the orchestra's not covering me, or that I'm not,
or whatever artistic administrator
is
sitting in row Q is going to be honest and be like, oh yeah, that sounds great, or well, it would be great to have a little more, and you're like, really?
I've been there.
How much more do you need?
I'm going to press pause maybe and have a little story time.
Oh, there you go.
Just about when I was singing in Orange, which is a big amphitheater. It's not as big as Verona, but it's about 8,000-9,000 seats.
Yeah.
And it was a dress rehearsal. Is Butterfly, and Act 1 for the tenor is you're on stage the whole time, literally from the moment that you're on to the moment you're gone. In Act 1. And then Act 3, you come in for about like 12-15 minutes of pretty intense, dramatic singing.
Trio.
And the trio and all that jazz. And so I kind of coasted a little bit in Act 1. And then,
Was this during a dress?
It was public dress. It was. I don't know if it was public or not, but it was a final dress, let's say. Okay. And the intendant of the house came back to me after and he was like, I get in my dressing room. It's like, Act 3 was great. Really dramatic and really passionate. That's the word, passionate. It's like, we'd love to kind of get some of that in Act 1. Or let's say more of that in Act 1. Because, I mean, just the point being is that sometimes, and this is an open air theater, and all the acoustics are amazing. It's all Roman amphitheater.
Right.
But you still, if the wind is blowing, well, there goes your vibrations of your voice in the wind. But anyway, just out there, just getting to what you were saying about the, a casting director.
Right, ears in the house. And the level of trust that you have with whoever's giving you that feedback.
Sure. Absolutely.
But it's important. It's important stuff to think about, because you're right. We don't hear ourselves the way that others hear ourselves. Certainly not 20, 50, 100 feet away. Yeah. And depending on the size of the house, those distances start to make an important difference. And that's why technique is so important, right? That's the whole goal of figuring out how to sing, is so that we can project our voices in a healthy way, fill the house, but yet still communicate.
Yeah, right. And still communicate.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
But, getting back to this whole idea of like becoming really, really, really familiar with your own instrument, you got to listen to your lessons.
Oh, gosh.
And I know that there are a lot of you out there that are not listening to your voice lessons.
You record them.
Yeah, you record them.
And then you never listen to them.
And then you never listen to them. And now look, the reason I know this is because I did the same thing.
Yeah.
Right?
There was
to a certain point.
Yeah. There was definitely a period of years where I kind of did that, or I would listen to part of the lesson.
Yeah, you just listen to a little bit of here.
But then when I realized, especially when I started to have to pay for these lessons myself.
Oh, yeah.
$200, $250, $300 for an hour lesson. I was like, I'm going to get my $300 worth
and
four times over.
Yeah, and I was going to say, not only am I going to listen to this once, I'm going to listen to it again and again and again to make sure I didn't miss anything. So,
and just a plug, get yourself a decent mic, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Get yourself a Rhoda.
Go back
shotgun.
to the how to self-tape with the recording equipment.
Absolutely.
Good stuff in there.
Put it in with your phone, get it on tripod. No, actually, it's one of the things I'm looking forward to at IU is I'm going to have this microphone on a stand and a tripod.
Oh, and just let the students use yours?
Let the singers
awesome.
Put their phone in the tripod, plug in the good mic so that they've got great...
that's incredible.
Great quality.
That's incredible. But to that point, that's really the only way that you can hear what you sound like is by listening to the recording. So I encourage...
And people say all the time, I can't stand to listen to my own voice. But you got to get over it.
Get over that.
You got to get over it.
And start to learn from it.
Because I have often realized in doing recordings and listening to recordings of things that I do, when I hear what I'm doing wrong, as long as I hear what I'm doing wrong, I can fix it like that because I know exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah.
That is not producing... It's one of those things, right? Like you think you're doing it and maybe you're not doing it enough. Or you think you're doing it and you're going too far.
Yeah.
But I think one can kind of acquire the skill to be able to listen to one's own voice and be like, oh, man, now that I see that. And I think this goes true it holds true for videotaping as well. It's like, oh, well, I thought I was being way more expressive than I'm being. And now that I see it, I realize I have to do 150% more.
And I think that you bring up a great point of like, and we talked a little bit about it, I think, in self-taping, or maybe we talked a lot about it, I don't know. But it's like, the more you do any of this stuff, the better you'll get, and the more comfortable you'll feel at it.
Yeah.
But Lord knows, I mean, still to this day, you get up to do a record, you know, onto the video. Okay, ready? Okay, go. You know, and you're like, it feels on one hand that there's no pressure because you can always just stop and go back and re-record. But on the other hand, you're trying to get it as best as you can in that take that you're going to use. You know, because there's no splicing in these videos.
No, absolutely.
So you have to make sure you try your absolute best. Oh, we're definitely outside.
We're definitely outside. We're enjoying the neighborhood. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
One more thing that I wanted to say that just kind of occurred to me as we were doing this video just now, because it's kind of the way that we're actually taping this video. Mm-hmm. You just set record, and then you like give like a minute or two of just like normalcy. Because if you go record, hello, my name is Bryan Email, and I would like to sing.
Right.
It's somehow not organic enough.
Right.
So if you hit record and just let it play, it is like easy as pie to trim off 2 minutes of nothingness.
Yeah, totally.
Where you're just like talking to your pianist. Okay, we're going to do this. Okay. And then you sit there, give 3 seconds of silence.
Yeah.
Your head down, bring your head up. Your pianist knows that they're ready to start. They start.
Yeah.
You can cut all of that stuff out. But I think it's really important to realize that just because the camera is running doesn't mean that reality has to somehow shift into.
You're so right.
No, it's
no, I know.
Yeah.
It feels that way, though.
We've experienced that in doing this podcast.
Totally.
And we just realized, no, that's somehow not our authentic.
It's not even us.
It's
like,
not
this
our
is
authentic
us.
Self.
Right? This is us. Hanging out, talking, and chilling out. But I feel like there's this feeling, like you said, of like, okay, welcome. You know, like you turn into an NPR kind of like, or like a classical music. You know, welcome back to
You know, welcome back to Between the Notes.
I mean, which is great, and but yeah, I think trying to figure out how well, and for the younger singers that are coming up, it's like, you know, learning to tell your story and figuring out what it is about yourself that is unique and interesting that you want to put forward. And I think, you know, obviously it's our voices, but it's our personalities. Sure. And I think those personalities have to shine forth in any way possible. And
as our children would say, the Riz. You got
the Riz.
Let your Riz show. And if you're kind of a little bit you know, nervous, apprehensive, shy, whatever the word is, then your audience will feel that. Right? And we want your audience to feel, hey, listen to what I have to say. Listen to this sound I'm going to make. I hope you enjoy it.
And I mean, when you're doing it, I mean, even in an audition as well, fine, put on a mask. You know what I mean? Like, if your normal personality is very, very sort of timid or shy as a person, but you have this incredible instrument, and obviously you're meant to be doing this, you know, you've got to put on a role. Like, I have a student of mine who has worked with a therapist who has helped them find this, it's like an extra, ultra, you know, super personality that's like, well, I'll give you her name. Her name is Barbara Seville, right? So it's like, and Barbara Seville is a diva, right? She is a diva ready to go. And I think it's really, really been incredible to watch the growth and the confidence. And all it is just like, okay, I'm no longer, I won't throw that
and
name.
Watch, you know, if you haven't had a chance to watch it yet, watch our Beth Clayton episode. She talks very much about, you know, making that change to the personality or persona when you walk into the room, or like a second before you walk in the room, so that when you're walking in, the shy version, the nervous version is kind of pushed aside.
Yeah.
And then
there's
you
that threshold. She even says those words,
threshold,
right? The threshold you walk into the room with.
I love it.
It's a different personality, a different energy, a different everything. Something that you're able to offer that everyone will be like, oh my gosh, all right, this is great. So, you know.
I love it. Well, thank you all for joining us. We've had a great time. We're going to continue to have a great time. And we're sending you guys all our best and hope that, you know, you can build your team and include, you know, some of your friends on there who you know have your back.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Thanks so much. We'll see you next week on Between the Notes.
See you then.
Thanks for joining us on Between the Notes. Make sure you hit that subscribe button.
And join us next week for more behind-the-scenes stories, laughs, and operatic gold coming your way.